Okay, welcome to part two of this video. So in the previous video, we created a model chair, very simple, largely using some tools like extruding, loop cutting, scaling, those sorts of things. Today we're going to go ahead and continue with the chair. In this case, we're going to sort of cut some slats, some holes into the back of the chair to give it some character. We're going to taper the legs of the chair, maybe taper the top. Add a few features, and then we'll go ahead and model a cushion and use the bevel tool. So along the way, we'll be using some similar tools and reviewing some tools like our edge loops using Control R. In fact, that's what we need to start with. So let's go ahead and get into it. So we've got our chair here. I am in edit mode. You can see that in the upper left-hand corner, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Control R. I'm going to use some shortcuts today. If you use your middle mouse wheel and you scroll up, you can see that you get some cuts in here and they're evenly distributed. And so I need 4 edges in addition to the 2 to give me 6 because I'm going to be making 3 cuts. So I'm going to go ahead and left click and then rather than shifting them around, I like where they're at. So I'm going to left click to lock those into place. I'm going to use Control R again. This time I'm going to make a horizontal cut. I'm going to left click and drag up. That's where I want my cuts to stop. And then I'm going to hit Control R and left click and drag down where I want them to stop at the end here. All right, so now I'm going to go up here into edit face mode. You can hit 3 on your on the numbers above your keypad, or you can click the link here. I'm going to go ahead and select and hold down Shift to select these 3 areas here, and I'm going to go ahead and right click and choose delete faces. Now we're looking at the back of the chair, so I'm going to go ahead and click each one, hold Shift click in order to get all 3. Again, right click and delete those faces. So we've got our holes here, but as you can see, if we zoom in a little bit, we've got some edges here that we need to fill in. And so this is a new technique for us that we haven't used. I'm going to go up here and in edit mode, I'm going to choose vertex select. I'll be using points here. So I can click to select one point and then hold Shift and click. And I'm going to go down here to the end and go ahead and grab those and hit F. And you can see it fills in here at the top. And I'm going to do that at the bottom as well. So I'm going to click here, Shift click each of these points, hit F to fill those in. And now I just need to fill in the sides here. So whichever ones I can see, I'm going to go ahead and Shift click these 4 and hit F to fill that in. I can see this one pretty well from this angle. So I will do the same. And I think I can even get this one here. So now I've done the right sides. Now I need to do the left. So from here, I can hit F. I'm going to have to rotate. I'm holding my middle mouse button down and shifting left just to move the chair around. So now I'm using Shift click, Shift left mouse button, I should say. I'm going to hit F to fill that in. And all right, and we'll circle on the back here. Just make sure we got all of the edges. Okay, so we're good here. So that's how we cut those, delete the faces. We went into point select mode here and then filled in. I'm going to go ahead and rotate the chair, go to the bottom here. I'm going to go into face mode so I can taper the legs. So I'm going to click on each face one by one, and I'm going to use a series of key strokes to do this. So I'm going to hit S to scale, 0.5 to make it 50%, and then hit Enter to lock that in. So I'm going to do this 3 more times. So I'm going to hit S to scale, 0.5 as in period 5, Enter, and one more time, S 0.5, Enter, and S 0.5, Enter. All right, so they're all uniform and now they are tapered, so that gives the chair some character. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and extend each of these sides. So I'm going to Shift click each of the sides over here and hit E, which will extend it or extrude it, excuse me, in the Z axis. And so I'm just going to lift those up a little bit. Okay, so we're largely done with the chair at this point other than adding a material to it. We're not going to get real fancy. We are going to add a color to it, but I'm going to go ahead and switch back here, and it's important if you don't want your cushion to be part of your chair, you need to come up here and switch into object mode. And remember the keyboard shortcut for that is tab. If you tab backwards, you could tab into object mode and then tab back into edit mode. So we're in object mode. You can Shift right click your mouse in order to put your 3D cursor on your chair if that's where you want to add your mesh. I'm going to be adding a cube here and then use the cube as the basis for my cushion here. So let me zoom in a little bit more here. If you hit Shift A, you can add different meshes. We're choosing the cube. It's going to be too big, so we're going to size that down in the Z until it's about the size of the cushion we want. We're going to lift it up. So G to go and Z is the axis I want it to lift up on. And I'm going to come down and see if I've got this about right. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now, if I rotate around to the side, I can see I need to, I'm on the green axis here. Depending on how you have your chair, you might be the red axis, but I need to scale it in a little bit. So I'm going to hit S and Y in order to scale it in. And then I need to move it forward. So I'm going to G, Y. And it overhangs the front here a little bit. That may not be that bad. We'll look. I'm going to go ahead and bevel it. So in order to get a little bit more character into it, a little more geometry into it, we're going to go into edit mode. So I'm going to go up here and click. Again, you could hit tab to go into edit mode. And we're going to use the bevel tool. So this is, this one here is the bevel tool. It's got little, it adds some geometry up around the edges basically and slants those in. It gives them it puts them at a diagonal. There is a Control B is the shortcut if you wanted to use Control B. You can see that it will allow you to bevel and gives it a little more character here. Okay, I'm going to right click off that. If you use the tool, one of the things you'll notice is you'll get a yellow tab, very similar to the extrude tab. And it does the same thing. When you left click and drag it, you can see it's giving you a little more character to the cushion here. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that. And I think I'm going to go ahead and soften, smooth shade it so it looks more rounded, a little bit more organic. So you want to do that. I'm going to go ahead and go into object mode. And you can just right click on the object here, and then you'll see it right up at the top of the menu, the object context menu. So shade smooth, you can see it kind of rounded it. Now it definitely looks more like a cushion, a little more organic. Okay, so we're pretty much set as far as the modeling goes at this point. We are going to want to add some materials. So I'm currently selecting the cushion, so I'm going to go down into, first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to go to material preview. So material preview lets you see colors. So if I click the little beach ball looking icon up here, I can see, and then I can come down into my material properties tab by clicking the what looks like a little red beach ball here. So I have cube 0.001. I might want to right click here and choose, oh, it's not letting me, I'm going to double click it and make this cushion so that I know it's cushion. I'm going to double click this one and make sure it's chair. It's good to name these things as you go along. So I'm on the cushion, and you notice when I select the cushion, I get the orange outline around it. I'm going to go ahead and add a material, a new material, and we'll call this cushion matte. Now I'm not going to do any texturing or really anything advanced at this point. I'm going to go ahead and make it red. I'm going to choose base color here. I'm going to get a color wheel, and then there's sort of a tint slider over here, so I can hit red. And if I wanted it to be more of a burgundy or maroon, I could bring this down. I actually like the bright red, so I'm going to keep it there. And then I can come up here into my outliner. This is called the outliner panel, and I can click chair here, and then I can come back, and now it's already given it a default material, so I don't need to add a material to it. I just need to make sure it's not this sort of white gray. So I'm going to come down to the base color. Now notice there's no brown on the color wheel. What you actually need to do if you want a brown is to click into orange here and then go ahead and left click and drag the slider down until you're happy with the brown. And it doesn't have to be brown, you know, whatever color you want to make it. It is your chair, your model. This is sticking out just a little bit much for me. And so I am going to scale that in a little bit. So I'm going to grab this guy, scale it in the Y just a smidge, and I'm going to back it up just a bit. Cushions don't generally fit chairs perfectly, so that's all right. There we go. Okay, so last couple of things. I call it kind of lights. camera and render. So instead of like lights, camera, action in a movie, it's lights, camera, and render. And so what we want to do is go into render mode up here, just to show you. If we go back to solid mode, notice everything's gray again. And no matter, even though I've assigned colored material to it, we're not seeing that here. So you want to do that. Now, when material preview mode, it just basically puts some artificial light on it so I can see it. What it's actually going to look like when I render it, based on the light source that's in the scene, is this. And you can see it's pretty shadowy right now. And that has to do with the fact that the light here is behind the chair. So we're really only seeing some of the light hit the cushion here. And if we come around the side of the chair, that's where the light is. So it's nice and to come up here and to hit the Z to get a top view. And then you can see better where your light is in relation to the chair. So notice it is orange right now, so I can hit G and move that up and kind of put that into the front. It is a point light. If you want more light, it's a little high. If I use G and Z, I can bring that down, and you can see there's different sort of effects as the light strikes the chair there. And then finally, now that I've got my light, I need to get my camera in order here. So if I want to take a look at where my camera is, I can click the camera icon, and I'm kind of over here viewing at an angle that cuts off the top of my chair. Not really what I'm after. The way I like to move the camera is I hit in order to bring out this tool panel, and there's a little tab here, view. If you click view and you lock the camera to view, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit in to make that disappear so I get on my screen. Now I can move the camera around just like the viewport. So I can hold shift and my middle mouse button, and I can pan up and down. I can shift it left and right. If I just hold my middle mouse button down, I can rotate around it. I can use my middle mouse button to zoom in and out. And you can use these controls over here as well. If you don't happen to have a three button mouse, if I want to, I can slide the chair by moving this here, and it's actually moving the camera. So it's repositioning the camera based on the view. And it's just a little more natural, I think. So I'm going to rotate around a little bit to this side and kind of look down a little. I think I'm going to pan out a bit. There we go. So I like this. I've got my camera now set. I've got my light where I want it. Now I'm ready to render. So to render, we're not going to change any settings. There is a render properties tab over here where we could change settings, but the default settings are fine for us. And so we're going to go up and hit the render button and go to render image and choose render image. And we'll see a pop-up come up onto the screen, and this shows us what our finished image is going to be. And it generally saves as a PNG file. And you can click image and go to save or save as. Either one works. It's going to ask us a name for our file because we've never saved it. So I'm going to hit save, and it brings up a file explorer view. So put it wherever you save your materials. I'm going to expand this a bit so I can see my Blender models here. And I've got a renders folder that I like to keep things in. So I've got some other chair renders here. I'm going to come down here, and you can see it's a PNG. You want to keep that .png file here. Chair render 3 in this case. So I'm rendering it. And then there's a blue button over here to save image as. And then once you're finished, you can do whatever you'd like with that image. You could move your camera around, render different images, and so you sing it at different angles. But there we go. That completes our part 2 of our modeling a chair series. So I'll see you in the next tutorial.